Hi everyone, welcome to Yogatic. My name is Esther and today I'm going to give you a few more exercises to increase the flexibility in your hips or to work with the hips. There's lots of stuff stored in hips, especially for women. So I think it's good to bring your attention to the hips before we start. So we start sitting down with our eyes closed. So make yourself comfortable. Open your chest, have a straight back. Eyes closed. You can gently begin to bring your awareness to the breath. And then really feeling your hips, pelvic floor, the side of the hips, the whole pelvic area. And then as you inhale, you bring the awareness down to your hips. So in a way, the air moves from the mouth through the throat, down through the central line of the body, right down into the pelvic floor in the hip area, where it expands. And on the out breath, you can allow the awareness of the breath moving back up to your heart. And on the in breath, bring it back down again to your hips to expand that whole area. And on the out breath, you allow the flow to move back up to the heart. Keep going for a few breaths. Energy flows where attention goes. We want to work on the hip area, so we just want to bring your attention to it. And at the same time, it's a nice way to center yourself. So really imagine this whole area expanding as you inhale. And the exhalation, allowing the awareness to travel back up to the heart, the chest. And then on the next in-breath, you open your eyes. And you can place your hands on your upper thighs. And in a way, try and lift yourself out of your hips. So you're pushing down into your thighs and you're trying to lift your side body out of your hips. This is a nice stretch for the lower back as well. Inhaling. And on the out breath, release. Okay. Then we come on hands and knees. And just do a cat stretch to warm up your spine for a moment. So lowering the back, opening your chest. And on the out breath, round the spine up to the ceiling. 2 more times. Inhale, look up. Lift the sit bones, roll the collarbones up. Exhaling, rounding the back up to the ceiling. Last one. And still be with your breath, still aware of the hips. And then come to neutral spine. And then you step your right foot between your hands. Place your hands on the front knee. Inhaling. And then draw your inner thighs a little bit in towards the midline. And on the out breath, just sink into the front knee. Keep your hips facing the front. So don't let your right hip move forward and the left hip move back. Keep them squared to the center. Your right sit bone is sort of stretching towards the back of the knee. And your right hip tacks down to avoid the hip moving too far forward. And you can feel a strong stretch along the front of the left thigh. And you can stay here for 10 to 15 breaths at home. And then gently placing your hands back down and go onto the other side. First coming up, inhaling, drawing the right hip forward a bit, left hip back, and exhaling, slide, gently lowering down into it. And make this a meditative practice, so you keep breathing down into your hips to expand. You're very gently pressing down to the tops of the toes as well to anchor your body. So stay with the breath. Keep breathing down into your hips. It's also to tell your body what you want. By bringing your attention to it, your body understands that you want it to let go in the hip area. Keep tagging the outer left hip down. Keep rolling the right hip forward a little. Again, 10 to 15 breaths, bringing your hands back down and coming out. Okay, and then we come and lie on our back. And we do eye of the needle pose, which is a preparation for pigeon pose. So you're bringing your thighs, your feet down, thighs parallel to each other. And then you're crossing your right ankle over the left knee. So the ankle is not underneath, it's just beyond it. And you're going to lift your left leg up and bring the legs in. You're going to bring your right arm through the triangle in between the legs. And if you can easily, you grab your left shin. If that is too difficult, because your outer right hip stops you, you can also grab the back of the thigh. And if that's still too difficult, you could use a strap and you could hold the strap that way. So it really depends on where you are, where you hold. At the same time, you're going to flex your right foot, so your knee, you keep your right knee safe, and you're going to press with your right elbow the right thigh away from you. And this is a great hip opener, a great pose to work up to pigeon pose, which is stronger. Stay with the breath. And you bring your left knee towards your left shoulder a bit, not towards the midline. And then you change sides. So you can keep this quite long for yourself. But I would suggest holding this pose at least for 10 to 15 breaths. Okay. And then when you've done that one, you're rolling over to your side, you help yourself up, and we come on hands and knees again. And you're going to bring your right knee forward between your hands, and then slide your right knee out a little and bring your left foot in front of the left hip. And then you're going to gently lower down, extend your left leg behind you. Now, you really want to, this pose keeps coming back and back when I'm talking about the hips, but that's because it's such a brilliant hip opener. It works on the outer right hip, and at the same time it works on the front of the left hip. So you're working two sides at the same time. You want to, if possible, flex your left foot as much as possible to keep your knee safe. And you're going to bring that left shin bone as much parallel to the front of the mat as possible. Now that can be quite impossible for most people, so you're just working with what you can do. The top of the left thigh stays down. So you want to keep your hips squared. That's the secret to keeping your sacrum and your lower back safe. And really feel this just in the hips. Okay. You keep your belly slightly in to protect the lower back again, opening the chest. And you can take a few breaths here. You can also tuck your left toes under a little. I forgot to mention that. That helps to align the hips better, especially when you're not used to the pose yet. And then as well, you can also come into a fold in this pose and stay for 10 to 15 breaths again. And then we change sides. You can take a downward facing dog in between. Feel the difference between the two sides and then bring your left knee forward and take this on the other side. So again, make sure your left foot is flexed so you keep your knee safe. It will make it harder. It's much easier if you let your foot point because you're compensating a bit in the knee to go further down. So now you keep everything aligned and you're honoring your body this way. Top of the right thigh down. Keep the right hip moving forward a bit, tag the left hip down without falling over to the left. Tuck your toes if you need that extra help to align. You can take a few breaths here. Again, you keep the awareness going down to your hips, the breath. And then you can come down into a fold as well for another 10 to 15 breaths. Okay. And then when you've done the other side, you come out. And another brilliant pose is Baddha Konasana. So you can sit with the knees out, soles of the feet together. And inhaling, lengthening. And you can sit on your block as well. And if you want to, you can, on the out breath, come into a forward fold. And you can stay and hold this pose for a while. Or you can decide to do the lying Baddha Konasana. So you can just make yourself comfortable here and take this as your relaxation as well. And again, breathe down to the pelvic floor. You can really support yourself in this pose. You can place blankets underneath the back. You can place something under your head, and you could place blankets underneath the legs to support, so there's not too much stretch in the groins, because if you're overstretching your groins, your body is actually more going to lock up than that it's going to be willing to let go. So you have to find your balance. For me, this is fine, but if you feel that's too much, then place blocks underneath your thighs to support yourself there, so that the groins can soften, and that will sort of tell the hips to let go more. So keep breathing down to the pelvic floor, expanding the pelvic floor as you inhale. And on the out breath, allowing the awareness of the breath to move back up to your chest. And especially this pose, it's very nice to hold for about 5 minutes, even 10, even 15, if you have the patience. I sometimes do when I'm tired or just stressed. Okay. Right. That's it for today. For the hip openers, there's many more, so I can keep going with that. But for now, work on these few. They're good, and if you just bring them into your practice at least once a week and perhaps a few times a week, you will notice a difference in your hips soon enough. Namaste, and I hope you'll join me next time again.